So I've been seeing a lot of people doing a 2022 reading wrapped, and a lot of the people I have seen have read like 100 books. This year I read 12 books. I had a very, very busy year with teaching and getting married and everything, but I wanted to go through and rank the 12 books that I read this year from my least favorite to my most favorite. Number 12 is Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. It is a book that I received as part of my Once Upon a Book Club box subscription. It is a subscription where you get a book every month, and then there are sticky notes on certain pages, and you open a gift that corresponds to that page number, and it goes along with the book. It's a really cool concept. So a lot of books that I've read because of that box. I honestly couldn't tell you really much what happened in this one. I know it was one I was just trying to get through. I didn't particularly enjoy it, so that's why I ranked it as number 12. Number 11 is Why Our Schools Deem the Arts by Jessica Hoffman Davis. I did enjoy this book. It just wasn't a very engaging read. This was a book that I read as part of a book study. I am obviously a big supporter of the arts in schools, but I just didn't really enjoy this book. Number 10 is The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. This is one that I call a pool read. I read it in the pool over the summer. It was cute. It was a romance, and the authors are actually together in real life, which was an interesting aspect of it. There just wasn't very much about this book that stood out to me, so that's why I ranked it at number 10. Number 9, I had Darling Girl by Liz McCallum. It is a modern day retelling of Peter Pan that is a little bit darker. It follows the granddaughter of Wendy Darling, who has a cosmetics company, and she has some dark family secrets that are going on. It was fairly interesting. I didn't really love the darker spin on Peter Pan, but it was an interesting book, so that's my number 9. Number 8 is Legally Blonde by Amanda Brown. I am a huge fan of Legally Blonde the movie and Legally Blonde the musical, so I wanted to give this one a try, and I really enjoyed it. There are some differences in this story than what actually happened in the movie, but the overall structure is very much the same, and it was a fun read. Number 7 is In Another Light by A.J. Banner. This is another one that I got as part of the Once Upon a Book Club box subscription. I read this one in one day on New Year's Day last year. It was one that I really couldn't put down. It was a very enjoyable read. Number 6 is The Creative Habit by Twyla Tharp. I actually read this one as part of a book study as well, and Twyla Tharp is a choreographer. This book is all about inspiration for creativity, no matter what you do, whether you're an author, a writer, a dancer, a composer. Really, really inspiring book, and I really love Twyla Tharp. Number 5 is A Pearl in the Storm by Tori Murden McClure. This was a super interesting read. It is an autobiography of the author, and she is the first female to solo row across the Atlantic, and the accounts of her experience were very gripping. It felt like you were right there with her, just imagining what she went through and doing that huge task. Number 4 is On the Edge of Daylight by Giselle Beaumont. This is actually a Titanic historical fiction, so I love the Titanic, and it is about a female officer being on the Titanic who ends up having a bit of a romance with one of the other officers on the Titanic, so it has some real-life characters and some fictional characters in it. Number 3 is The Day the World Came to Town by Jim DeFeed. So I was inspired to read this book because I love the musical Come From Away. So when the attacks happened on the World Trade Center on 9/11, all of the other planes in the air had to go somewhere, and a lot of planes were diverted to the small town of Gander, Newfoundland, and it's a story of how the town really came together to support all of the thousands of people who suddenly appeared there and to make them as comfortable as possible, and just a really great story of hospitality and community in the midst of a tragedy. Number 2 is Educated by Tara Westover. I know this is at the top of a lot of people's lists, but this book was just so eye-opening to see the experiences that she went through and the battle she really had to face in order to receive education, and just seeing how life is for some people. I loved her writing style, and this was a book that I really just couldn't put down. And my number 1 book this year is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I've been a big fan of Jeanette McCurdy since growing up watching iCarly, so when I saw that she had a book, I wanted to read it. This book was nothing like I expected it to be. I had no idea what she had been through as a child actor and the abuse that she had faced at the hands of her mom, and just the way it was written, it was enthralling. I couldn't put it down while it was so heartbreaking at the same time. So I hope you enjoyed. I had a very mixed bag of books for 2022. I am hoping to read more books in 2023, but those are my top 12 books and only 12 books of 2022.